Hi, I'm Don Bodan from SampleLibraryReview.com, and today we're going to be exploring LA Modern Percussion version 1.1 and Percussion in Motion Volume 1 from Audio Ollie. Now, if you saw my first look of LA Modern Percussion when it was first released, you know that I loved the library, the sound, and just how amazing the playback was. In August 2019, Sample Library Review contributor Rayborn Johnson reviewed the library, saying, LA Modern Percussion has the best sounding sample set, and there's simply no other percussion library I know of out there that can touch this library. Turns out Rayborn and I were not alone, as the collection of contributors as well as industry pros awarded LA Modern Percussion as a Best of 2019 award winner for Best Percussion Virtual Instrument. So when I got word that Audio Ollie was releasing an update to version 1.1 and an expansion with Percussion in Motion Volume 1, I couldn't wait to dive in, and spoiler here, this add-on is already my favorite expansion of the year. Today's video will do something just a little bit different. I'm going to go over my favorite new features of both LA Modern Percussion version 1.1, and we'll do a dive and play through all of the presets that come with the new Percussion in Motion Volume 1 add-on to this wonderful library. At the time of putting this together, LA Modern Percussion is on sale for $2.99, normally sells for $4.49 from Audio Ollie. It does require the full version of Contact 5.8 or higher. Percussion in Motion, as an add-on you can pick up for just $19. This uses the developer's new sequencing functionality in the updated LA Modern Percussion library and jumpstarts your grooves with, I think, 170 some additional presets. So when you load up LA Modern Percussion 1.1, you'll see you have the grooves folder here, and they've included these 5 new grooves for us to check out. One of the most powerful features about the update here is the sequencer, which is added to each of the instruments. You're able to easily turn on or off the sequence option. You can save and load different sequences, which is incredible, meaning you can quickly craft one sequence and apply it to others. And then there's this little ingenious mod button here. And what this allows us to do is use our mod wheel to control the dynamics across the entire sequence. And right there, I think we start to see just how powerful the new sequencing engine is, controlled with a simple thing like the mod wheel. But that is not all. The sequence option also lets us decide which keys we're going to be using to trigger each sample, which becomes really cool here when you start to think of it. Like here we go, you just drag and click. Now this one's on D2. And it sounds like there's a couple others on D2 already, which is kind of cool because that means we could make this one go to, let's go to G1. I bet nobody's on G1. And then when we add our C2 back in, we could quickly just jump back to only playing one sequence. So this makes it so after you've created a really powerful groove, you could be scoring really quickly. And since each of these mods can act on a different MIDI CC, you can actually be programming that in your DAW, even if you just have one instant of contact with all your sequences up. Another great feature here is this mod CC function. And what this lets us do is it maps dynamics for different instruments we've got loaded up here in Kontakt to our mod wheel dynamic controls, meaning we could have this one being controlled on MIDI CC 18 and then this instrument on MIDI 1. And then that way, yeah, we could use our mod wheel to program them in, but we could go in and actually sculpt the entire thing in our DAW with MIDI CC information, which of those of us who work with picture know just how useful this could be. Now, another feature that I think is going to be really handy is the ability to play two sequences at different times. Now, hear me out here. This is going to be very interesting. We're going to be playing polyrhythms, basically. Here I've got a simple thing in 4/4. And then when I go to my next one, I'm going to do this one in 3. So by creating this, we're creating something that doesn't sound like a loop anymore because the actual loop points are going to be so far in between. Plus, with the mod wheel moving the dynamics, really will create something dynamic. Now, another thing I do want to mention about the new update with version 1.1 is that our sequencing is a little bit different depending on what kind of instrument. So, for example, you have multi-sampled instruments that are sequenced one way, but you also have fills that are sequenced another way. For the fill sequencer, the level here for your sequencing velocity doesn't trigger velocity anymore. Instead, it triggers which sample plays back for which fill sequence. And then additionally on this sequence for fills, the red numbers are offset. So they default to 40 millisecond offsets. With a fill like this, because it is a live performance, you'll probably want to manipulate a little bit to get it to land or hit right where you need. And then for the fill sequence, you've got the ability to actually shorten the playback length of the fill. So here's the fill at full length. Now let's do right here. You can hear it cutting out. Even more. Now you wonder why would you do that? Well, what if you were programming this way? And now you're getting something completely different than what you planned on. So although it is a little more complicated to get in and understand this kind of sequencer for fills, I think what you might agree here with me now is that this opens up a whole nother world of creating grooves from these natural fill performances, which I think are going to add a lot of life to my scores, to my tracks. Yeah, the other thing that I really like what they've done with this is they've created an advanced tab, and this lets you control randomness of velocity, which is very helpful for live feel. There's a little bit of looseness if you want to give that more of a human feel. Although these sequences sound very realistic with just the way it's set up now, adding a little looseness can add even more humanization. And what's great about this advanced features is this also applies to the sequences. So you could loosen up the sequences as well as applying randomness to the velocities, so you're not getting a constant hit on the same velocity for each time it loops around. Now, another thing you may have missed if you didn't dig too deep into LA Modern Percussion version 1.1 is the multis. If you hit multis, you've got all your old multis, but then scroll down to the bottom. You've got a whole new section, 129 new multis that they've crafted for the instrument. Now, as if that wasn't cool enough, LA Modern Percussion has a new preset collection. It looks like they're going to be releasing several because they've called this one Volume 1, Percussion in Motion Volume 1. It sells separately from the library. It's currently $19.95 over at Audio Ollie. And this is a collection of 170 plus grooves that are pre-programmed as multis, loading up as multiple instruments, and they even give you tempo reference and time signature reference. And from pulling up one example, you can see how they've created these mapped across the keyboard. I've got 3 notes that trigger these sequences. And by simply varying up my key switch, adding a mod wheel for dynamic changes, I could instantly start creating a cue from this. All right, so now let's do a deep dive. I'm going to mute the mic, and we're just going to listen to a bunch of the Percussion in Motion presets to get a feel for it. I'm going to vary up my tempo throughout, matching the tempo that they've written these in. I might change it up a little bit after I hear them. Let's just dive in. And that gives us a pretty good overview of what is included in the Percussion in Motion Volume 1 expansion. I have to say, this is my very favorite expansion pack for a library ever. I thought that LA Modern Percussion, when it was first released, just sounded amazing. And with the addition of the sequencing for the update and the expansion pack with all of these grooves as launching points or instant cinematic scoring tools, these are going to be great ways not only for me to get something quickly, but also get a launching off point, go in, modify it to meet my particular score. But those are just my thoughts about the library and the new expansion. What do you think about it? Did you already pick up LA Modern Percussion, and have you upgraded and done your purchasing of the Percussion in Motion Volume 1? Please let me know what you think about this edition of the grooves. Is it something you can't wait to start using? As always, please like, share, and subscribe. Love your support. And be sure to head back around on Fridays for the weekly Deal Compressor Show, where we recap the new releases and latest deal offers in virtual instruments.